And what Hazel does is it basically is an automatic file organizer. You tell it to look at certain folders, you set up rules on what to do with the items in the folder, and Hazel will automatically handle it after that. Start, if you go in the help, you can see that there's a option to load sample rules. And these are some basic general rules for you to use and look at. And we'll, I guess, start by going through these. Now, first rule, newly added items. What this does is if you look, it says date added is after date last matched. And basically in this rule interface, the top part here basically are the conditions that you specify to match items in your folder. And then on the bottom part, you have things to do if the file does match. So basically what this is saying is that if a file basically was added after the last time it matched or last time it checked, basically set a blue label on it and then continue matching rules, because by default, if a rule matches, Hazel will stop basically evaluating later rules in the list. So this allows it to continue down the list, even if it is a match.
Mm-hmm.
So next rule, this is old items. So basically, if it is added in the last 4 weeks, then set it to red. Actually, you know what that should be is not in the last. Interesting. Okay, I'll have to fix that. But basically what that says is after 4 weeks have passed, if the file is still there, then label it red instead of the blue that it had. Oh, wait, no, this is right. Sorry. So basically what this does is that, oh, no, I'm sorry. This was different before. So anyways, it'll change basically. You can basically set like time triggers basically. So basically if the date added is not in the last 4 weeks, you can set it red. Right. And so what this does is, it's kind of weird ordering, is that if it was added in the last day, to remove the blue label. So basically, you have it start out as blue, and then after a while it turns to having no label, and then after 4 weeks it'll switch to having a red label. And so basically it's a way to use the colors to kind of give you a sense of how long the file has been there. And for kicks, let's change the old items one to be 5 minutes, since we're not going to wait for weeks. So we'll have it set it red if it's been 5 minutes. These later rules, basically, if it's a movie, then move it to your movies folder. Likewise for music, and likewise for pictures. And basically uses this thing called kind, which if you go into Finder, it's like, take a file, and if you look at it, you can see all sorts of information here. There's like kind here. Music is kind of like a general catch-all for different audio files. And there's also more info stuff down here, which is information that is indexed by Spotlight and made available. I'll go into more details about that a little bit later. But let's start with the basic rules we have here. You can basically, you need to enable them basically for them to be active. So now they're active. So we have some test files here. Let's copy to our downloads. Wait a second here. And of course, during a demo, things stop working.
Of course.
Well, so here,
fire always.
well,
There you
let's
go.
let's troubleshoot then, because this will highlight some other features. So, for example, we can use the rule status here, and we can see here that the match is no longer new items. Okay, so basically the error here is that if it matches these, we don't have it continuing. So I have to double check these sample rules. I feel like I'm running an odd copy of them. Okay, so And then what you could do is we could force Hazel to, normally it will run automatically if there are like changes to the file system and or changes to your rules, but you can also force it to run. Okay, so for some reason notifications aren't working because notifications are weird. But as you can see, the image and music files here are no longer in downloads. If you look under not movies, music, so there's the audio file, and the pictures, there's the picture file that I stuck in there. So that's pretty simple. But let's try something a little bit different. Let's say we want to take some screenshots, right? So we got a screenshot here, right? Let's take another one. Okay, and so by default, those get stuck on the desktop. Let's say we want to file these into a subfolder. So let's add the desktop folder to Hazel to monitor. And it's right there. Okay, so we have the desktop here. And let's say we want to, let's call it screenshots. Let's say, as you see that screenshots have a naming scheme, so we can use that and say that if the name starts with screenshot, let's move it to, let's say under, sorry, let's see, under pictures. You have a screenshots folder. And let's save that. And if we look at the rule status, the rules haven't run yet. There's no date matched, but you can see that as a preview that it does, these files basically do match the screenshots folder. And you can use this to look at all the attributes on the file. You can see that the name does match by the blue highlight. So it's a good way to kind of debug things. And okay, so there. And so now you have screenshots here in the screenshots folder. But let's say, for instance, I mean, you know, these things will pile up, you know, over time. So let's say we want to manage the screenshots folder itself. So if we add that here, let's say we want to do, I don't know, let's say we want to keep, let's see, the last 3 screenshots. So basically this condition, date added is not among the 3 most recent, means that if it's not among the 3 most recent, that we are going to move it to the trash. Okay, so we only have 2 shots there. So let's create a couple more. Right. Right, so it hasn't run yet, but you can see that 3 of the most recent ones do not match the throwaway rules, whereas the 2 older ones here do. And at some point it'll kick in.
So is Hazel always running in the background?
So yes, it is always running in the background. It tries to be efficient about it. Basically, it normally only wakes up either if there's a file event of some sort, like it detects change in the file system, or it does a calculation based on time-based things like, for instance, if there's any sort of date condition in there, like on the downloads we had, it's not in the last 5 minutes. Actually, maybe we should check on that. Damn it, that didn't fire. It's really not working now.
Of course.
So I'll have to figure that out later. But anyways,
Okay.
Go back to screenshots then. Okay, maybe I should force this one to run. There's something weird going on with the system right now. Okay, so when you run, you can see now it's down to 3 screenshots, which are the 3 most recent ones. The 2 other ones should be, oh, it's a lot of stuff in here, there. So you can see there.
Mhm.
So so that's, you can use something like this to basically keep certain folder tidy. It's good for things like, let's say, log files. If you're the type of person who has some program that generates a lot of logs and they kind of rotate out daily, you can basically use a condition like this to keep it down to a certain number. Now let's see. Right. So let's try using the spotlight info that we kind of mentioned earlier. So we have the, let's see, you have the music file here, but let's say that you want to organize your collection into this collection folder, and you want to organize your files kind of like iTunes, where it's basically artist and then album. Right. So let's go back to downloads, and let's change this music rule here. So let's say we first music, well, not to music, let's say we want to move to a collection folder. So I want to move it to the collection folder. Now, if you go and look at this file in Finder, you'll see that under more info, basically Spotlight is indexing this file and it generates a lot of metadata, which you can use. So in this case, there's not really artists. Instead, it's under authors, which is the artist in this case. And then you also have the album. So that information is available in Spotlight and then therefore in Hazel as well. So what we can do here is do sort into subfolder. So from the collection folder, we will be doing a folder underneath it. And it's not one of the standard ones. So what you can do is drag in other, which will bring up the list of attributes that are available on your system. And this will vary depending on system, on the apps you have installed, but there's all sorts of metadata available you can see here. Mm-hmm. And in our case, we want to use authors. So we have authors, and then we want to do a subfolder underneath that. So we use this right pointing triangle, which kind of basically indicates another folder. And then album, again, is not a standard attribute here. So go back to the list, and album is right there at the top. Okay, so there we go. Now we have something that should file our music. Let's throw this back into downloads. And there you go.
Wow.
So then we have it by artist, and then by album, and then there's the file.
That's cool. That is cool.
And like again, go into Finder, find files that you want to organize, and look at the metadata, because it's different for different files. Images, for instance, let me see. Go back to I guess I was under pictures, right? So like for images, you have information like dimensions, color profile. I guess for the more geeky photographer, there's going to be more information also, like things like f-stop and things that you can an aperture that you can shutter speed that you can filter on. So it's useful for that type of thing as well. But again, it's going to vary on the system and the applications that you have installed as far as which metadata fields are available. So now let's try something a bit more advanced. If we go back to downloads, we have this bank statement here, and it's been sitting there, and we got to do something with this, right? So if you go under documents, we have this bank statements folder. So let's file it there. So let's add a new rule. Now we're going to do something a bit more advanced here. So we have our bank statement. First, we need to identify it from, let's say, other files. So first, we want it to be PDF. Now, let's say we want to make sure it's our bank statement as opposed to, I don't know, like your phone bill or something. So let's check for the account number. So we have an account number here. Actually, we can just do contain. So let's say if it contains that account number, it'll match. But also, let's get even more advanced here. Let's say that we want to rename the file because, if it's just called bank statement, next month you download it and it's going to overwrite the old one because it just has a generic name. So let's add the date to the statement, or at least the month and year. So if we go back to contents, we can do contain match, and here we can specify pattern. And I see it's a bit cut off. So what we want to do is create a pattern where we can grab that date from the contents of the statement. Now, one thing you can do here is we have also a preview function, and we can select a file to preview it, and it'll show you which conditions match. And as you can see here, these do match. We haven't finished this condition, so it's just showing a generic button. But if you click on that, it'll show you the value for the contents. So you can see how the contents look according to Hazel. And with PDFs, the text can be a little bit funky depending on how it was written out, because a lot of these are computer generated. So if you look for the date, right, we have it here for March 15th to April, right, 18th. So that's a pattern we're going to try to match here. So we can do for, and then let's create our own custom date attribute. Let's say start date, and we'll set to automatically detect because it's a pretty straightforward date in this case, to end date. And again, it's straightforward date format, so we can do that and say done. And as you can see, that matches. And you can see that it's assigned March 15th to the start date and April 18th as the end date. Now, what does that mean? Well, first off, I'm going to move this. Oh, wait, wrong folder. Sorry. I want to move this to the bank statements folder. Now, so we go to rename. Of course, with rename, there's another pattern field here. And basically, you can use all sorts of things to rename. There's standard attributes. You can use any of the spotlight attributes that we saw earlier, to use in the name. But in this case, we have these new attributes we defined ourselves, the start and end date. And let's say we want to go by the end date. So let's say we want to call it statement, dash, and then the end date instead. So let's save that rule and just move this up a little bit. So at some point, I might have to force it to run if that file's been sitting there for a while. Oops, sorry. Why is that not running? Hold on a second. Oh, okay, it did it. So you can see here, there's a statement. Actually, did it do it, or was that there before? Let's try it again. Okay, it did do it. Demo. So let's move that back to downloads. Okay, and go to downloads. Something going on with this. I apologize for this. For some reason, it's not allowing me to manually run the rules. Kind of see if that works. Okay, so that did work. Mm-hmm. And so as you see, it did move to bank statements, and the file is renamed with the April 18th date we specified. And actually, I don't think we care about the date so much. So what you can do here is in the rename pattern, if you click on it, you can edit the pattern. And as you can see, it has the year dash month dash day. So let's just say we get rid of the day because all we really care about is a month. It's a monthly statement. So let's delete that again. And oh, damn it. That was the last copy of it. Oh. Good thing for undo. So okay, there it goes. And as you can see now, it's just the year and the month. So so the rename pattern stuff gives you a good bit of flexibility. There's a lot more options than what I showed here. Like you can adjust the date. So if your dates are off, if for some reason, I don't know, they always, label as a month, the next month instead of the current month, you can adjust that here. You can replace arbitrary text in there. There's also little options you can go through and play with them. Like if you stick the name in here, right? There's you can change the capitalization, things along those lines. So that's something that you can play with on your own. So by the way, any questions so far? Because I kind of went through a lot here.
Oh yeah, hold on. We have tons of questions.
Okay.
So my question, when you pulled out the date of the start and the end date,
Sure.
You said like you're looking at a pattern or you're creating a pattern. Okay, so I'm definitely assuming that this download of the PDF that you're getting like from your bank statement, they definitely have to have text. They can't just be an image. It has to be either be OCR'd or it has to already have the text available in the PDF.
Yes, that is correct. Yes, it has to have text in there. So if you need to OCR it, you need to have some sort of OCR software to turn it into a form where the text is available. And one way to check for that is in preview. If you can select the text, that tells you that there's a text layer in that PDF.
Okay, so with this text that it picked up, what if there's date text somewhere else in the file?
So it depends. Like here we have closing balance. The best way to do it is if there's surrounding text you can use as an anchor. For example, if you want to get this date, even though it's the same as this date right now, you can do a pattern closing balance on instead of the 4-2 pattern we have here, right?
Okay.
I would recommend that as the best way. But if it's just a date freestanding without any surrounding text, what you can do is here match which occurrence. So if you wanted to go through and just, whoops, sorry, I don't want to delete that. Let's say delete this one. Let's say I just do this without any surrounding text, right? And so you can say which occurrence you want to match. Like maybe you want the second one or the third one,
Okay,
so
it's reading from top down.
Right. Well, you can also specify from the end. So second from the end. And the thing is, though, you need to look at the text, because text doesn't always in a PDF doesn't always appear or is not out encoded in the file in the same order as it may appear to you.
Right.
Especially if there are things like columns and tables. I mean, think about also the PDF format is it's a really freeform format. Like, most programs when they generate it don't do this, but I mean, theoretically, it could just basically, like, let's say if you have the word opening, draw the O, then draw this C down here, then draw this S. Like theoretically, a PDF file can do that, but luckily most of them are pretty well formed because they're generated by a program which already has the text in a certain order. But again, at the end of the day, that text ordering may be different, because like here we kind of have columns, but it may go across the columns instead of going straight down. So it's always important to use the preview here so you can see how the text actually looks to Hazel when you use it.
Okay.
Right? So,
Billy McKee, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? And I want to know how you think that would relate to Hazel.
Paul, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I've got thousands of JPEGs and RAW files, and I'm obviously using one of the programs to organize them. But actually, I wondered, can you read the EXIF file of either a JPEG or a RAW file and then manipulate the storage or movement of those images based on the data that's in the EXIF files, on the EXIF attributes?
So that's actually both yes and no. So basically, Hazel is using the information which is provided by Spotlight. So if we go back, let's say, to our image file here, Spotlight will provide some data. This, I guess, doesn't have any EXIF data, or doesn't have much EXIF data in it. So the thing is that the good news is that a lot of the EXIF data is indexed by Spotlight and will appear here. Unfortunately, not all of it. And actually, there's one that is commonly used that is so common that I actually hard-coded into Hazel to provide that, even if Spotlight doesn't. And that is date taken. So if we just, let's say, create a new rule and use, let's say, so we go to other and right. So I provided our own date taken attribute, which will grab the date taken out of the EXIF for image files, because for some reason Spotlight does not index that field, and you know, so many people use this field that I ended up adding myself. So so basically, it is available there.
Does Spotlight index photos?
Yes, it should, unless you tell it otherwise in your preferences. If you go to Spotlight here, and sorry, there's this bar in the way. So Spotlight preferences, there's this privacy tab, and by default there shouldn't be anything in there, but if you add stuff in here, it won't get indexed. So make sure whatever you want indexed does not appear in this list, basically. And if it doesn't, they should get indexed. And again, the way to check, good way to check is to in the get info, look under more info. That basically has the fields that are available.
Great, thank you, Billy. Jim Cutler. Jim Cutler, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, which I think I had more than one.
The Wells Fargo AT&T question.
Yeah, basically, I download from a couple of different banks and several accounts in one bank, and a number of other vendors like the telephone company and so on, Sprint, whatever, or T-Mobile or whoever. And I want to sort that. Some of them actually have consistent file names, and some of them are just getfile.pdf.
Right, right.
And so I need to look into, I need to look inside the file to sort it.
Right. So that's, if you look here, right, bank statements, that's what I'm doing here. So see contents, that's the text contents of the file, right? So here, this line right here is basically, this is the account number. See account number here?
And those are generally different than between banks, between accounts, and between ISP bills versus bank account number. So you probably do have a pretty unique account number in most cases.
And an additional thing, this file doesn't have it set on it. But basically, if you, I'm trying to think of a good file I can download. Basically, sometimes under more info, you'll see a thing called where froms. And only certain programs like Mail and Safari, a lot of third-party programs should but do not set it. But if you use Safari, excuse me, it'll set a thing called a where from. And basically, this is in Hazel, you can access this to the source URL address. So, what you can do is say is from domain, say, I don't know, bofa.com or something. You'll have to check when you download the file whether that is set. And if it is set, you can also use this to filter on, your different bills. So if you have AT&T, it'd be AT&T.com, let's say. Again, you'll have to check on your system because it may be different. But if it is there, that's another way you can use to differentiate between your different bills. And that's also what I use for my bills.
Okay, I recognize preview is analogous to the web info when I'm troubleshooting one password in a browser. So I appreciate this. This is really good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. And yes, I have started seeing that where from listed in Spotlight. So that's good to know. Michael Schleider, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, I use Quicken, so I'm wondering if I use the Quicken app, can I search credit card statements or line items?
This is the desktop and not the online app.
The desktop, yes.
I mean, you want to search within Quicken, or are you talking about?
I want to search within Quicken.
Hazel operates on files on the file system. It's not really a good idea to have it operate on private files managed by applications. right? Like I guess Quicken has its own storage internally for stuff. It may not be a good idea for Hazel to muck with that because if it moves stuff around, it could break Quicken. I mean, you could have it maybe, I don't know how Quicken stores its files internally. So, I don't know if it'll work, but if it does have, let's say, individual files for the different receipts and such, you could use Hazel to look at those in a read-only context, but I would really advise against having Hazel, do anything with those files if it's internal to another program.
Can you get into the library files?
I don't know in Quicken how it's stored, but if you can get it to it in Finder, then Hazel should be able to look at it.
Okay, thanks.
All right,
And
thank you,
also,
Michael. Oh, go ahead.
one
Go
other
ahead.
detail, which is also one of the details also, you can add smart folders to the folders list here. So if the files you want to operate on aren't localized to one folder, let's say, I don't know, for some reason you want to color all the JPEG files on your system blue, you can basically create a smart folder to find all the JPEG files, drag that folder in here, and then write a rule to do that, basically.
Thank you, Michael. I have a question bounced off of that. I have a bunch of images in different locations on my computer, and I actually want to find that where from data, but I don't want to move their images. Can I create aliases of those files and put them in a folder?
Yes. So let's see. There is a make alias action here, and then you can specify which folder you want the alias to go into.
Perfect.
So,
thank you.
All right.
David Winograd, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? David?
Yeah. Hi. This looks to me as basic concept is it does what rules do for the mail program for the Finder.
Correct. That is the inspiration for it, actually. So.
And what I'm looking for is to scan a bunch of different statements, to have them put into folders, which I do manually now, but here's the problem. The next one I come in would be whatever it is, but it's consistent, however the scanner shows it, for a different bill. But I want to rename it to a month later than the last one in that folder. What would be the best way of doing something like that?
You just want to blindly label it the next, like, is the month not in the file itself?
The month probably is in the file itself, yes.
Right. So if it is, I would recommend doing that instead, because that's just a more reliable way, as we did in this rule here. Basically, this text for date to date, if you look, that appears in the text here. So it shows you even the text that it matched. And so basically you can grab this data out, and we pulled out the dates into these two custom attributes here, the custom date attributes. And so when we pull those out, those are basically like any other attributes now in the system, and then like name or whatever else, see they appear at the bottom here. So now they're available to you to use in renaming or sorting into subfolders or whatever after that point.
I see. Oh, okay. So what I can do in basically a couple of steps, well, one button, is I can take it from the scanner. I can move it over to the folder I want it. I can have it renamed by pulling data out of the document, and it's great until next month.
Yes, as long as the scanner also, or whatever, you do an OCR step.
Yeah.
Right. So as long as it's OCR'd, it should work.
Great. Thanks so much.
No problem.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, I am going to butcher your name, and I apologize.
Not a problem. You can just say
I think
Abby. Abby is fine.
Abby, there, you already knew where I was going. All right, thank you. All right,
Thank
so
you.
you have a series of questions that I really want you to pose, because I know the answer
Cool.
to them, but I want you to ask.
Wonderful.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Perfect. Firstly, Paul, thanks for making Hazel. It's just brilliant, and it has made my life so much easier.
Well, thanks for purchasing it. I assume you purchased it.
Absolutely. So I think my first question is, I've looked this up in forums, but there doesn't seem to be a way to decrypt PDF files within Hazel itself.
Yeah, that is correct.
Is that something you're thinking of adding in the future? Because it's something I have to do very often.
Right. Yeah, it's something I'm considering. It's just one of those things where, it's a specialized function, and and they have to look into how to store your password. I guess I have to maybe put in the keychain or something along those lines, because it's probably not safe to store it in your rules file where, someone else might be able to, I don't know, if you share your rules,
Right.
So I'll probably have to do something like that.
Yeah, the alternatives are things like command line tools, and in order to run them, I anyway have to save my password in plain text in the rule itself.
Okay.
Because it has to be passed as an argument. So, I mean, I have to do it, and I'm keeping it like that for now. But yeah, if you have something built in, obviously that'll be
right. I think it's in the feature list, but I don't know how it's prioritized, at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. No, absolutely. As long as that.
All right.
And I think my second question around that was, is there a way to automatically download attachments from the Mail app, whether it's through Hazel or not?
Again, that goes into the thing I mentioned earlier about internal files of other applications.
Okay.
Now, Mail, I think the attachments are stored in separate files, so you might be able to create a rule, but the thing is that again, it's really tricky, and I would only do it if you really know what you're doing and you don't actually modify anything in there. It used to be the case that there was like a Mail downloads folder that whenever you, I think, viewed an attachment in Mail, it would save it into that folder. And that was a folder that was outside of Mail's internal file system, so that, Hazel could look at that and basically process those attachments. I don't know if Mail does that anymore. I feel like it stopped doing it at some point, though.
I believe so. Yes.
Cool. All right. Thank you. Those are my questions.
And thanks.
Cool. All right. We are caught up on questions, Paul. All yours.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's not really with the rules stuff. I mean, I went over the, broad kind of range of stuff, but there's a lot of little things that I didn't touch upon. But, you can, like, let's say, upload to a server. There's different protocols available there. Like if you add a server, there's like FTP, SFTP, WebDAV. So there are different options there. There's tags. You can add tags to your system. You can add comments, though. Comments, I would say, on macOS are kind of flaky. They're kind of an old thing that basically don't always work as well as they should, I feel like. So I would say use tags in lieu of comments when possible. And also there's like, you can create zip files or unpack zip files. You can also, there's all the different media apps, music, photos, TV that you can import into. And also for the more advanced users, if you are familiar with any sort of scripting language or with shortcuts or automator, you can have Hazel execute those in your rule, as you can see here.
Really? Run an Apple script. Oh my goodness. Okay.
And
cool.
And I know automator's on the way out, but you can do automator as well. But shortcuts is the new hotness, so that is there too. And so and also you can set custom notifications to display if you want. So there's a bunch of actions here besides just moving, copying, and rename that I didn't don't have time to really go into deeply. So
is it possible for you to show briefly how to display a notification?
Sure. So let's say let's do the bank statements again. Let's say after we finish. Let's say, I will say whether this actually works in the demo is another thing, because because also the notification system on macOS is a little weird, where it doesn't necessarily show all notifications, but if you like, look at them here, they're there, but it doesn't actually pop them up sometimes,
Okay.
So, so here, like, you can say, like, let's just say, all done, when it's done, and save that. And then we go back and let's see, it was in our documents, right? All right, so let's move back to downloads. And I'm not sure if to tickle it again manually or not. And just in case, let me. Oh, now that's acting up. Great.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, there's something weird going on here with that. I'll have to. Oh, now this one's okay though. So, okay, so it's there, and see the alert did happen, but because of
Mhm.
the Mac notification system, it didn't pop it up for some reason.
Okay, I see.
So, but it does work. Maybe it's the notification settings. Let's see, where is that here? Hazel says allow. It says banners. I mean, it should pop up. So, it's kind of weird about that.
Okay. All right, you do have a question about importing photos. Linda, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question? Linda
Yes,
Farabee,
ma'am.
go ahead.
I got you. I saw where you put that JPEG into pictures, and I would like to see you import it into the app photos.
Okay, we can do that. God, do I have anything in here? Okay, so let's do I have an album? I don't have an album, so let's create a new album. Let's just call it my new album. All right, so let's say we add to the pictures rule, import into photos. Of course, I have to access. Okay, there it is, my new album, right? So we'll import that right in. Now, if we go back here, and I guess it's under pictures is where we last left it, isn't it? Right, so put that back in downloads. And just in case, I'll tickle it again. Yeah. Okay, so it moved the file back in here, and in photos, there it is.
That is
Great.
sweet.
That's wonderful for my use. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful. Do we have more questions for Paul? Okay, the notifications are not displayed because are not checked for displaying screen. Okay. Okay. Do we have any more questions on Hazel, please? Because I don't want to monopolize this whole thing, but
Well, I mean, I've got one more thing to show.
oh, okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No problem.
Go ahead.
Okay, so also, I mean, the trash stuff, I haven't really gone through this. So
Okay,
also, Hazel can manage your trash in the preferences. There's this trash, pane. And so you can trash files that are older. These are actually not trashing, but deleting files from the trash. It's to manage files after you put them in the trash. And so these can either delete them by age, you can delete them after some amount of time, or keep the whole trash under a certain size. And also, the last feature here is the app sweep. So what this is, and there's other apps that do this specifically, but when you throw away an application, there are like config files and preference files that are left over. And so like those apps, let's say I throw away OmniGraffle, even though I never really would, but Hazel notices that you threw away an app, and it'll ask you if you want to throw away these other files along with it. These are files that basically OmniGraffle, like uses that are no longer needed if you no longer use OmniGraffle. So you can move those to the trash as well. And if you change your mind, let's say that, oh, I didn't mean to throw away OmniGraffle and everything. I just undid. And then Hazel sees that you pulled OmniGraffle back out of the trash, and you can basically reinstall all those config files.
Wow.
So
that is cool.
So yeah, that's about it as far as a kind of run through of most of the major features. Any other questions at this point?
Donna Warnock, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, I have two questions. One, is it possible to look at the mail inbox and have Hazel take out and make a list of the contact names and addresses from that inbox?
Hazel is not really good for scanning mail. It's really for files on your file system. And I mentioned before about messing with mail's internal files. It's probably not a good idea. But mail itself does have a rule system of its own. I'm not sure how you would do that off the top of my head, which you just asked, but I would think that whatever you do would want to be under the mail rule mechanism instead, though.
Mhm.
The Apple tech people don't seem to know about that. So I don't know. Is there someplace else you would suggest going to find that out?
Well, if you went to Apple and they weren't help, boy, I don't know. I mean, you can try to find an Apple consultant in your area. I'm sure that somebody in this user group here knows of resources to find those, maybe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can help you out, Donna.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Donna, you had 2 questions. Did you get them
Yes.
both? Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah, no, you didn't get them both. The other one is similar. Can it make contact lists from the contacts of those who do and don't have email addresses listed in the contact directory?
Again, yes, I think that's same answer, I think.
Yeah, same
Okay.
answer. Great.
I tried.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Nello, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Are you there? We can't hear you if you're speaking. All right, we're going to then go to.
Okay, I got it.
There you go.
All right, sorry, excuse me. My question is, I've been a Hazel user for many years, and it works great once the files are downloaded to the download folder. So it puts me in a position of kind of being the monkey to press the buttons every month. And unfortunately, I go to a lot of websites that name files the same thing. And Hazel kind of stumbles a little bit, or the website kind of stumbles a little bit, because it's always downloading the same file name.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to have Hazel on a schedule, say monthly, go to a website, tinker around and download the files, and then it can process them nicely?
No, I would love a program that did that. I'm not sure if Hazel would be the best choice, mainly because the way websites are, we call that kind of like screen scraping, where you're trying to pull the data out of a website. I mean, because of how different every website is, it's a huge challenge to do that for a general tool. There might be some out there. I have not looked recently. Maybe there's a program that does that out there, but that would be a great program to exist. But I think it would be a huge challenge because every website is different. So you're constantly going to get people saying, like, I can't download my statements from this site, and then that person has to go and maybe get a login on that site, figure out whatever combination of things to do on that site, for example. The web, things are very freeform on the web, such that it makes that type of thing very hard to do.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ward Clark, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, I just upgraded to Monterey, and before the session started, I ran Hazel for the first time on Monterey. And I have a rule on a folder that automatically opens the folder finder window when a new file arrives. Now, because I hadn't run Hazel in a while, it found this folder and opened the window 3,000 times. I was using date last matched. Now I'm going to go in and make the rule smarter, but it occurred to me I just like a way to tell Hazel to stop.
If you could do the stop Hazel item up here.
Oh, okay, good.
But usually it should stop things. There might be odd cases where if it's in the middle of a certain type of operation, it might have to finish that before it notices, type of thing. So, but in general, yeah, you should go here if you find that you just need to put on the brakes.
Okay, so I realized that what I need to do is to make the rules smarter than just say date.
Email me in support, export to rules, send it over, and I could help you with that.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Ward. Billy McKee, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
All right, me again. I use a variety of machines from 1015, 1013. I've got a 17-inch MacBook Pro that is still going very well, but compatibility is an issue because that's 1011. Is there a version of it that will operate in 1011, or is that history?
I'll have to look that up. I mean, I have a page. If you go to my support page and just search for old versions, it should point you to a page which has links to older versions. And I believe I have one that goes back to 1011. Check and email me if there isn't one. But I do keep older versions up specifically so people with older machines can run those older versions. I will say that, I mean, they're not necessarily supported because I wouldn't even know how to fix things in the old ones. I don't even know if they build anymore on my system because, you know, they're so old, but you still can run them.
That's fine.
All right.
Okay.
I haven't
Thank
replaced the 17-inch, and that's why I've held on to it.
Oh, the 17-inch, yeah.
I mean, it's getting there. But
All right.
anyway,
Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Billy. James Cutler, can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
My question is on licensing.
Okay.
I have a home machine which I will use it primarily on, but I also sometimes have to be elsewhere, so I have a MacBook Pro that I carry with me. Is the license for me like a Microsoft or Adobe, or is it a per machine?
So the single user license is for one user and up to 2 machines. So because I know it's common for people to have, let's say, a desktop and a laptop or something like along those lines.
There's a phrase like one seat somewhere in there in your literature on the web.
Okay. If you email me that, I'll look into correcting that, but it should be, yeah, so 1 person and 2 machines, and anything beyond those limits, I would recommend the family pack, which is, you know, priced such that, I mean, it's cheaper than 2 copies. So the family pack is pretty well priced.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. It just was ambiguous.
Right.
Thank you.
All
right, no problem.
Great.
I
and
just,
that, Jim?
I
And
just
that
don't.
next. All right. Thank you, Jim. And Abby had a follow-up question to that. He wants to know, how does the family pack license work?
It's up to 5 users or machines. It's not really, I'll say it's not really enforced. You know, maybe dangerous saying this, now people are going to pirate like crazy, but it's not strictly enforced. I rely on the honor system on that. So.
All right, thank you. We are honorable here. Thank you. Okay. All right. Any more questions? We still have room for questions. Any more questions? And there was a couple of questions in the chat about where's the best place to purchase. I put the website information in the chat. I also put the discount. It is a 20% discount on Hazel. And
I want to add, though, also, I only sell it through my site. I've had occasionally people claiming they bought it somewhere else, and apparently those are pirate sites that will sell a pirated copy to you. So
okay.
as far as I'm concerned, my site is the only place to get it legally. So if you see another site selling it, it's probably a pirated copy that they're selling.
Great, thank you for that information. Right. Okay, those of you who are asking questions about your mail, the pat answer is we can't get into mail. Okay, upgrade from individual to family. Nello, is that a question or a comment?
That's a question. Sorry,
yes.
I couldn't hit the question mark.
Go ahead. Go ahead, ask it.
Yeah, is there I think I mentioned I've been using Hazel for years and years and years. Is there a way to upgrade my license to a family license?
There is. Just email me. It's a manual process on my end. I don't have, because it doesn't happen enough to be automated. But
okay.
Yeah, just email me, and all you have to do is pay the price difference, and I'll send you a link where you can buy the family pack at the discounted price.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right,
great.
No problem.
Thank you, Nello. John Morelli, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Yeah, hi. First meeting, first question, just about first everything right now.
Okay.
As far as when you're doing a cleanup or trying to move the files around, are there only on the main, can you only use on the main drive, or what about attached external drives, network drives, etc.? Can they be placed wherever you want them to be on multiple drive situations?
In general, if it's in Finder, Hazel can monitor it. Or you can also use as a destination of a move, action. The only caveat is for network drives, they do not generate the file events that Hazel usually uses to wake up. So in those cases, Hazel will have to poll it every few minutes to see if there are any changes. So file changes may not be picked up for a while on network shares.
Okay, great. Thanks so much.
Great. I have a question on, will Hazel, let's say Hazel is set to pick up something that's on iCloud Drive. Would there be any issues with sync? And because sometimes iCloud Drive, when it comes to syncing, is sort of iffy, flaky sometimes.
Yeah. It is sort of flaky. I mean, Hazel tries to detect if the file is in use. There are certain mechanisms that it uses to check that. And I forget if iCloud Drive is a good citizen in that regard, because it has to be, both ends have to basically do it. For one end has to basically say, okay, I'm using this file, and the other end, as checks to see if it's using and I forget if iCloud Drive does it or not. But most normal apps should do it. So when you're saving the file out or whatever, Hazel should detect that. Or if you're using Finder to move a large file and it takes a while, Hazel should be detecting that. I don't remember if iCloud Drive does work or not. But in general, iCloud Drive is kind of flaky, and so it's hard to say.
Okay, be careful and beware.
Right.
As far as processor strength, would we have to worry about Hazel taking over too much or trying to take up all the RAM?
Hazel, I try to be efficient with it, and I try to have it only wake up when necessary. But things happen. Like, for example, some people will have Hazel, let's say, monitor a folder with like hundreds of thousands of files, and when you do that, that's going to be resource intensive. I would recommend having Hazel monitor, let's say, a more transitory directory like your downloads or desktop, right? Where you don't really want to keep things, it's just where things end up. And then have Hazel move it somewhere else, so those files are no longer there for Hazel to, have to check over and over again every time he checks that folder. That would be ideal, at least.
Is it possible to set Hazel to run at a certain time?
Yes, actually, I can show you. So if you let's say we go to this, let's say we only want to file pictures at a certain time, right? There's an attribute here, current time, and you can say at a certain time, let's say do it at 1 a.m. in the morning. And you can set, say, on weekdays, weekends, or you can say certain days of the week, like let's say Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So basically, this rule will only match, at 1 a.m. on those days, and so it's basically like a scheduler in that sense.
Great. So. Michael Slider, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, I've been trying to play around with the trash to remove trash, and the only and junk actually, and the only thing I could find is if I use a Control J or something like that, Control Option Command J to get rid of trash. So can you use shortcuts in any way?
I'm not clear on what you mean there. Like, you want to do it manually yourself, like?
Yeah, I want to move things directly to trash, and then try to. And I can't seem to get access to the trash to do that.
Are you saying like when you're editing your rule, like can't access trash here?
Right.
So you have to give Hazel full disk access. It's supposed to prompt you, but Apple's privacy mechanism is kind of screwy. So if it doesn't do it, you go here, you go to security and privacy, and then privacy, and then full disk access, and then you'll have to click this block, enter your password, and then add Hazel to this list and make sure it's checked.
Okay, and then I should be able to get access to trash?
Yes. So for some reason, there's certain things like trash, and I think your library folder require full disk access. So in those cases, you would need to do that.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Dan Sailors, can you please unmute yourself, or are you already unmuted? Ask your question.
Yeah, I've got a habit of doing export to PDF on anything that I want, and it remembers until I change it to go to the desktop folder. So my question is, does Hazel, would it operate off of a different folder than the downloads, or?
You can use any folder you want. As you can see here, we added the desktop folder earlier, and you can set up your own rules. And this one, we have it deal with screenshots, but you can add rules to handle PDFs as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Great. Okay, is there a rule that tells Hazel like when to launch for that background or for that scheduling?
Well, so Hazel is always running in the background in some form. Like it's always kind of ready. So basically, like if you quit this app, there's still a background process running that's kind of just waiting.
Okay.
And I mean, I guess we can see here, like right, see this Hazel helper here that's just kind of sitting there. So
okay, yeah, I'm familiar.
Right.
All right. Do we have any more questions for Paul? You have a captivated audience here. Ferrers, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yeah, I've been messing around with microphones. You specify the rule to look at the desktop. If you've got a folder on that desktop, does it look into sort of nested folders, or is it just a high level folder?
Okay, so this is opens a whole thing here. So by default, Hazel only looks at stuff immediately in that folder. And the reason for that is that it can be quite dangerous to have it go into every subfolder and mess up your whole file system. But you can get Hazel to do that for you. So let's say you have screenshots here. Let's say you have to basically create a special rule to tell it if you see a folder, go into it, right? So you can say kind is folder. And then there's this action down here, run rules on folder contents, right? So if we save that, basically what this rule says is anytime you see a folder, go into it and then go through the rule list again with those files and process those. The way it's set up now is this will go into as deep as possible because you didn't add any other conditions saying which folders to go into. But for instance, you could do something like subfolder depth is 0, which is basically means folders at the top level. So this will only go into the folders that are directly, in the folder in question. Or you can add other conditions like, let's say folder name is, something. So that'll only go into folders named something, for instance. So you can control which folders it will end up going into.
So if there is no other subfolders, will Hazel just ignore it, or will it send out an alert?
No, it'll just ignore it. It'll just, if there are no subfolders, doesn't care. So
okay, great. All right. Okay, so with that, it is 12:45. And Paul, I want to thank you so much. This has been so informative to me. And if you have any questions, anyone, you can please contact Paul at Noodlesoft support, and he will do his best, I'm sure, to answer your questions. But again, I want to thank you. I love Hazel, and I will be playing around with it and probably sending you some questions myself.
I'll definitely do that. Thank you so much for having me.